Hello, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up video on the how to do flow control in a C program. I'm going to leave this as a bonus video because I kind of ran out of time. I'm trying to keep these videos individually less than an hour. I wanted to show you one other test program I didn't get a chance to show just now. So here we are picking up where we left off. Let's do another program that loops through the numbers 1 through 20. So let's go ahead and it's going to print out the numbers that are even, and if it's not even, it'll just print out the number. So here we go. We're going to do fed. We're going to edit a file called even.c, and so include standard IO, right? Int main. Now I need a variable here to work with, and so we're going to do another integer variable, and it's an iteration variable, so we'll go ahead and call it iter. Now, what do I want to do? I'm going to loop through iter from 1 to 20, and when I do that, if even, put the word even after the number, and that's all we're going to do, right? Oh, actually, we probably should actually print the number, right? So we're going to loop through iter from 1 to 20. We're going to print the number, and if it's even, we're going to just put the word even after it. So let's go ahead and do a for loop. I want to do for iter equals 1, iter is less than or equal to 20, and then iter equals iter plus 1. And then I want to print out that number, printf. And I'll put a space after it, and there's the number, iter. And now I want to do a test. So how do I know if it's even? Well, there's a couple different ways we could do it. The easiest way to do it is to do an if, and it's even if it's divisible by 2, but there's nothing remaining after it. So that's modulo, right? So iter modulo 2 is equal to 0. So if that modulo is 0, then we know it was equally divisible by 2 because there's nothing left over. And now we're going to do some stuff, and that stuff is going to be doing a printf to say even. And then whether or not that if statement happened, we still printed out a number up above, so we need to do a printf and put in a new line. And because I'm a good programmer, we'll go ahead and do a return 0 at the end of my program. And so that should do exactly what my comment up here says we're going to be doing. We're going to be looping through iter from 1 to 20. We're going to print the number, and if it's even, we're going to print the word even after it. And if it's odd, it won't print anything. So I should see 1 through 20, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, right? Those should all have the word even after it. Go ahead and save what we've got. i16 GCC, turn on all warnings. We're going to output to even.exe, and we're going to compile the even.c file. And then here we go. Even has now printed out 1 through 20, and it's putting the word even next to each one. Now let's do another but related program. We'll go ahead and edit even.c. So this is going to be a different type of program. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. Actually, in this case, we're going to change the variable to num. So what do I want to do here? I want to do a loop. And in this loop, I want to read a number. And then print or tell me, right? Tell me if it's even or odd. And then how do I know that the loop is done? Well, we're going to quit if we've entered in a 0. That's what we're going to do. So I want to quit if it's 0, but I always want to make sure I'm doing the loop. So how do I do that? So I want to do a do while. And as long as num is not equal to 0, then it's going to keep doing the loop. So in here, I actually need to print out a prompt. Well, actually, I probably should put the prompt before I go into the loop. So we'll do a put s, enter a number, enter a number 0 to quit. And that way I'll know that that's how I'm supposed to exit. So I need to read a number. From our last, from part 2, we learned about the scanf function, and we need to read a decimal, an integer, so %d, and we want to put that into the value or into the variable num. But if you remember, scanf needs to have this ampersand in front of it. And so what this is going to do now is this will continue to scan a new number as long as that number isn't 0. The moment we've entered 0, then it's going to exit, and then it's going to just exit the program. So what I want to do inside that, I want to probably do some sort of an if block. So let's check if that number is divisible by 2 and equally divisible by 2. So in other words, the modulo is 0. Then it's going to do something. What's it going to do? Well, it's going to put the string, oops, I'm sorry, not put the string. We're going to do a printf, so you need to tell what the number is. That number is even. New line, number. Now what if it wasn't equally divisible by 2? Well, I could do a separate type of if down here that says if num, modulo of num is not 0, then do some stuff, and that stuff would be doing a printf of %d is odd num. And that's valid code, actually. We'll do this and we'll come back to it in a second. So that's what I want to do, and then it's going to always print out the number that I read in. So what's it going to do? It's going to start the loop. It's going to read a number, and if that is a divisible, equally divisible by 2, which is it's even, then it's going to print out that it's even. Regardless of this test, if that same number is not divisible by 2, in other words, the modulo is not 0, it's going to be 1, then it's going to print out the message that it's odd. And the while says it's going to keep doing it as long as num is not equal to 0. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and compile that program. Here we are turning on all warnings. We're saving it as even.exe. Oops, I have a typo. Remember how I said to when you're doing comparisons versus when you're assigning a variable, you need to make sure that you're paying attention to single or double. I missed that there. So that's a double equal to test if the modulo is equal to 0. Let's go ahead and save and quit. Recompile. That one should work. There it is. And then even. 1 is odd. 2 is even. 3 is odd. 4 is even. 10 is even. 11 is odd. 22 is even. 21 is odd. And then 0. 0 is even. But it's now hit the end of the loop. Now let's do another way to write that statement. Rather than doing 2 separate if blocks, we could have instead just written else. That's a much easier, at least to read, block of code. And so that should do exactly the same thing. Up here it says if the modulo of number if it's equally divisible by 2, right? So if it's equally divisible by 2, then print even. Otherwise, it's odd. And print that out. So that should be exactly the same output. We'll go ahead and save and quit, and we'll recompile our program. And then we'll run it. 1, 5, 9, 11, 22, 24, 26. And so it's still printing out the correct answers for if a number is odd or not, or if it's even. And there is actually one other way that we could do that. I don't know that we'd probably do this, quote unquote, in the wild, but we can do this one other way, just to show that there's one other way to do it. And that is, we can do a switch statement. So let's replace this with a switch statement. So I want to do a switch. What am I doing a switch on? I'm doing a switch on the value of the modulo of 2, or the modulo of number by 2. And it's going to do stuff within this block. My curly brace was wrong. And if that number is 0, that means it's even. And the modulo of 2 can only be 0 or 1, because it's either got a remainder of 0 or it's got a remainder of 1. You can't have a remainder of 2 if you're dividing by 2. So I actually could put case 1 here, but actually it's probably easier to write default. Since that's the last thing in my switch statement, I don't actually need to have a break statement at the end. So let's go ahead and run this loop. Save and quit. Recompile our program. And then even. 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, 4 is even, 10 is even, 11 should be odd, 21 is odd, 22 is even, and that's it. 0. 0 is even, and there we go. And so that's different ways that you can do looping and tests in C. It's a great way to make your programs do multiple things. Now, the next section will be functions. That is going to be longer than I thought it was going to take, so I'm not going to be able to attach that to this week. I'll update the programming guide for that. But thank you very much for this bonus video. So again, I just want to thank all the supporters on Patreon. You guys are really making this channel happen. And some of you have donated at a higher level, and I wanted to definitely thank you here. Thank you so much for your support. Visit our website at freedos.org. Join us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you.